What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Cannonballs podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Dane Cannon. Co-hosting with me today is
your boy, Jim. Going to.
And guys, we're recording right after Monday Night Football, and I have to say this: I wasn't going to wear any Chargers apparel because of this week, but the Bills made me feel a hell of a lot better as a Chargers fan. That was the Chargers lose in the worst ways, but that has to be one of the worst ways I've ever seen a team lose a game. We'll get into it, but
yeah.
Oh my God, that has to take the cake for the worst loss of this season, at least. I don't think I've seen a team lose a game worse than that. I don't think I've seen a team who's supposed to be like an offensive juggernaut play as poorly as they did. Would they have like 4 or 5 total turnovers?
It was up there, and I think it was at least 4.
Because I know there was the fumble handoff. James Cook fumbled earlier on, 2 interceptions, and then I don't know if there was anything else. I think that might have been it. So I think it was 4. But either way, guys, we'll get into that. Welcome into the Cannonballs podcast. Follow us on Instagram here. Like, comment, subscribe. Anything you can to do to help the podcast grow, we'd greatly appreciate. This is Week 10 reactions. Week 10 is all wrapped up. Moving on to Week 11. We are over the halfway mark. We are, we're moving along. It's going by fast. It's been a fun season, though. A lot of good games this week. I think this was probably the most exciting week of football, even though the matchups may have not seemed like it on paper, but the games ended up playing out really well, and I think this was a fun week. So we'll get into game by game. Jake, do you have anything to add before we get going?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a great week of football. Really only like a couple of boring games. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to get into it. We'll start it out with Thursday Night Football. This was one of the boring games. We picked the Bears to win. They did. They beat the Panthers 16-13. And it was not an entertaining game whatsoever. Couple good runs by D'Onta Foreman. And that's really all I can say. I mean, honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about this game. I'll be
100% transparent. I did not pay attention to this game one bit. It was kind of on in the background. It's Thursday night, but when you have a 1-7 team playing a 2-7 team, there's there's not much excitement around it, but sometimes these are the more fun games, but this game was low scoring. Like you said, not much going on, a couple defensive stops, some offense. It wasn't the most exciting. It's the biggest thing that I'm taking away is Bryce Young does not have enough weapons for this Carolina Panthers team to make any noise. The defense can make some stops. Miles Sanders hasn't really been doing anything because of the injury. Chuba Hubbard couldn't get going. 9 carries for only 23 yards. The offense was kind of distributed evenly to the wide receiving core, but no one had over 45 yards. It was just a bad offensive performance by the Panthers. The Bears were not much better. Like you said, D'Onta Foreman was the only one who really made any noise. DJ Moore had a couple receptions, 58 yards, nothing impressive, but good win for the Bears, I guess. I mean, Justin Fields should be coming back, so we'll see if they can do anything with that.
And the best thing is the Bears own the Panthers pick for this year's draft.
Yeah, so, they helped secure the number 1 pick, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that and the Panthers were winning at one point in this game. I thought they had a chance to win it, but
yeah, it was 10-9 at half.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bryce Young needs some help, man. Like, he needs some linemen. He needs some actual offensive weapons. I mean, we don't really know what Jonathan Mingo is, but Adam Thielen, I like the dude, but he's definitely up there in age, and he's not gonna to put the back on his team or the team on his back. Jesus Christ.
On his team.
But yeah, no, very boring game, and I'm ready to move on.
Well, let's do it.
All right. Sunday, we're kicking off in Germany. Another boring ass game. Holy crap. We picked them to win. Indianapolis Colts improved to 5-5. They beat the Patriots 10-6. And the Patriots, they're looking like a bottom three team.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting part about this game was the fact that New England had a chance to win and benched Mac Jones. Maybe it's not a huge deal, but I think it is a big deal. I think Mac Jones's time in New England it's got to be coming to an end. Like, it has to be. He does not look great. Granted, he really doesn't have weapons either. Ezekiel Elliott, he looked decent at times. He looked like he had a lot more juice at times than Ramondre Stevenson. And what's his name? Demario Douglas. He had a couple good receptions, but dude, honestly, other than that, I really don't have a whole lot of takeaways from this game either.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor was probably the best player. He didn't do too terribly much. He only rushed for 69 yards, but he had the touchdown. Gardner Minshew didn't really look great this game either. I think the biggest takeaway, if you're looking for positives as a New England fan, is the defense still looks good. The defense can still keep you in games, but the offense is atrocious. Bailey Zappi didn't look any better. I mean, he hasn't played hardly at all this year, and then he comes in, throws the costly interception to seal the deal. It was literally like watching Mac Jones 2.0. It was just bad. I genuinely think that Bill Belichick might be on his way out after this year. If he's not, I'll be surprised. I think that he could find another coaching job at another NFL team, or he may just retire all together. We'll see. But for as low scoring of a game, it's still a big momentum win for Indianapolis just because it's keeping them competitive in the AFC South. I mean, they're 2 games behind Jacksonville, and they're half a game behind Houston, who's 5-4 now. But yeah, good win for the Colts, even though it was a pretty boring game.
Oh, okay. Michael Pittman did have a pretty good game. 8 for 84. All right, let's get on to the regular time games. Again, we're kicking off with really boring games, but we'll talk about my boys, the 49ers, absolutely cream pieing the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was
and I was wrong. Jacksonville's only 6-3, so they're 1 game. Or no, I guess they still have 2 losses. Never mind. Sorry. Go on, Jake.
The 49ers, we picked them. It was a good pick by us coming off the bye. Both these teams were coming off the bye, and the 49ers showed up and the Jags did not. They beat them 34-3, and it wasn't close at all, ever.
No.
Maybe kickoff 0-0. I'll let you say your piece, and then I'll say mine.
Okay. This was great. Jake and I discussed that it was time for a reset for the 49ers. We predicted that they would come out of the bye hot, and they did. The defense looked electric. Chase Young and Nick Bosa, best friends, reunited from Ohio State, back on the same team. They looked great together. The whole defensive line in general looked great. The secondary looked great. Brock Purdy looked great. I think having Debo back definitely freed up Christian McCaffrey a little bit. George Kittle had a huge game. Ayuk got utilized. Brock Purdy was slinging the ball. I mean, Brock Purdy looked fantastic this game. He didn't have any of the costly turnovers, which we had seen the previous 3 weeks. I think the biggest storyline, though, is even though the 49ers defense played really well, what's going on with Trevor Lawrence? Because I heard a stat earlier from the fantasy footballers talking about CJ Stroud, how he's had 3 games this year with over 325 passing yards and over 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence has had 1 of those in 48 games or whatever it is, or 30 something games, something ridiculous. And it's Trevor Lawrence coming out of college was expected to be a Peyton Manning-esque type quarterback, the next generation, the new Jesus Christ of football. He was put on such a pedestal, and he has not lived up to it, in my opinion. He did not have a good game. this is multiple games this year where he's not looked great. But I mean, 185, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Travis Etienne couldn't get going. Christian Kirk looked pretty good, but other than that, like the offense was abysmal. Calvin Ridley, this is like his 6th game or 7th game this year where he's been non-existent, not being utilized. I don't know like what's going on, whether it's a Trevor Lawrence thing, whether it's a Calvin Ridley thing, whether it's both of them just sucking at the same time. But the Jags did not look good. They were at home. They were one of the hottest teams in the NFL, even though that they weren't like blowing teams out. They were on like a 5 or 4 game winning streak, whatever it was. Like they were hot. And 5-game winning streak. And the 49ers were on a 3-game losing streak, and the 49ers came to play. They went on the road, West Coast to East Coast, and they absolutely demolished the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they showed that this is the San Francisco team that we expected. Trent Williams is back, Debo's back, and it's a completely different team. You know, maybe they just needed to get a little bit healthier. Maybe they needed the bye, needed time to reset, but I'm happy for the 49ers. This was a dominant win. It was like watching them against Dallas 2.0.
Yeah, I think this was just as an impressive win against Dallas. I think it's a little bit more impressive just because we're later on in the season. You know, when you catch someone in the beginning of the season, anything can happen. I think that happened a little bit against the Cowboys, but you know, the Jags were, like you said, a 5-game 5-winning streak team. 5-game winning streak team. The number 3 defense in the NFL. I think they were like the number 3 turnover defense as well, and they didn't do anything. Not a single bit. I mean, they had 2 sacks. They had 2 sacks in the game, but you know, I'll take that all day. Yeah, and everything you said, nailed it on the head. You know, Brock Purdy looked good. Only thing, I think he might have gone a little bit lucky with that first touchdown pass to Ayuk. Kind of threw it up for grabs, but you know, I think that's just the way he plays. He's confident in what he can do. Let your
playmakers make plays.
Yeah, so I'll take it. I'm not gonna gripe on it too much, but everything else, the touchdown pass to Kittle was beautiful. You know, pressure was, you know, getting pressured, hand in his face, and just drops it in the basket, man. And yeah, it was a lot of yak, but he also threw a perfect ball for him to just catch him in stride. And then the defense, man, they're back. They are back.
They need Wilkes on the sideline from now on. I don't care what you say, whether it's superstitious or whatever it is. This defense looked night and day different than the previous 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think they just like they play better off that energy of, you know, a coach coming in your face and yeah, good job, blah blah blah, like, you know, getting in your face and telling you fucked up or you did great. And I think they kind of you play with better with that. And you know, Chase Young and Nick Bosa, man, it was fun. They got to the quarterback at the same time, like all the memes, like everyone talked about, and they got a sack and a strip fumble, and it was a thing of beauty. Yeah, and then back to Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think maybe it's hype. I mean, I'm not going to say he's a bad quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback, but for what he was advertised as, like, he should be at that.
He hasn't lived up to expectations like one bit.
Yeah, and I truly believe this was the year that he was going to take that next step. I thought it was either going to be him or Justin Herbert, who were going to be into maybe move into that top 3, top 5, you know, rankings of quarterback. Yeah, echelon. And he doesn't look like a top 5 quarterback at times. I mean, he didn't even look like a top 20 quarterback yesterday or Sunday. Yeah, his numbers are like okay. Like it's just okay. Like it's okay. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know like when his time comes to get paid, he most likely is. He's probably going to get a fat contract, but it's kind of like the Kyler Murray situation. Like, yeah, he's a good quarterback, but does he really, really deserve all this money? Probably not. But the way the market dictates itself is he's probably going to get it. So I don't know. I always say I'm a Trevor Lawrence fan. Liked him since college. I hope he can improve. But yeah, it was just a bad game for the entire Jags team. Great win for the 49ers, though.
Absolutely.
All right. So we got rid of the boring games. There's a couple more sprinkled in here, but we're gonna kick this one off with a really exciting upset. We did not pick them to win. The Texans beat the
Yeah,
Bengals 30-27, and
this
it
was
continues.
shocking. This was shocking.
It continues. The Bengals, like the Jags, they were
We're
on
one of the
fire.
hottest, yeah, one of the
Yeah,
hottest teams in the NFL. I think they were on a 4-game winning streak.
yeah, and it came tumbling down. The Texans, I really want to pump myself on the Texans just because we've seen the Texans before, but we have not
They
seen them
lost
with
to
a
the
good quarterback.
Panthers. They gave the
Yeah, and
Panthers their only win of the season.
yeah, exactly. Like we saw them 2 weeks ago lose to the Panthers. Thank you, Dane. That is a great point. And the last couple weeks, besides against Tampa Bay, like the couple weeks before that, CJ Stroud was looking okay. Like he didn't throw any interceptions, but he was just okay. But he's back at it, man. He's lighting the world on fire. He's the clear cut offensive rookie of the year.
Agreed.
Um, and honestly, like everything for the Texans just went right. The run game, Devin Singletary, 30 for 150. The pass game, Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell, Noah Brown. They were without Nico Collins, but they didn't really need him. And then the defense. The defense played phenomenally against, a little banged up Bengals team, but this is Dane's Super Bowl pick. This is a lot of people's Super Bowl picks. This is
Yep.
the AFC. This is one of the AFC
Elites.
yeah. And they just they went punch
In
for
Cincinnati,
punch.
also,
Yeah.
I do want to say that on the road, this happened
Yeah.
for Houston, which is
Yeah.
even more impressive.
Yeah. And they went punch for punch with the Bengals. Like
Yep.
that is impressive. And I think the biggest thing is they made Joe Burrow look human.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Joe Burrow, I mean, he still had a pretty decent day, 347, 2 touchdowns, but they picked him off twice. Like this Houston's Texans defense is legit. I mean, D'Amico Ryan really knows how to coach a defense, and it's what us Chargers fans wish we had in Brandon Staley. Like D'Amico Ryan really can rile this team up, get them to play with energy, get them to play with momentum, and they come out firing. Like this is a young team also, which is the craziest part is like this is not an experienced, like veteran heavy team. Like this is a very young team with a lot of young talent, and they are outperforming expectations. I think Houston was going to be like a 7-win team. They look like they might be a 9-win team if they keep playing the way they do. Like you said, I want to pump the brakes a little bit because there have been some like speed bumps along the way, like losing to Carolina. That's a bad loss. CJ Stroud has had a couple games where he hasn't been on fire. I mean, his stats were good. He didn't have like the 5 touchdown game. Again, he only threw for 1 touchdown, but he threw for 356. And I guess he didn't really need to because Devin Singletary just rushed for 150 yards. Either way, this was a tough loss for the Bengals. I think that they're going to be fine. Like, I still think that they're going to be able to bounce back, but it is a little alarming. Like we already said, we're over the halfway mark for the 2023 NFL season. And you would kind of expect the Bengals to be able to show up and handle business at home against a Houston Texans team that doesn't have as much experience. But great win for Houston, man. CJ Stroud, like you said, offensive rookie of the year. He is what Carolina wishes they had.
yeah, I mean, not to bring it back to Bryce Young, I think they've been just the Texans have been just accumulating draft picks, defensive players. Like they're a young team, but they have a veteran defense with a lot of veteran presence on there and a defensive minded head coach, and that helps a young quarterback out when you have a good defense. The interesting thing now that the Bengals lost, they're 5-4. The Texans are 5-4. We'll talk about these other teams, but a couple of these other AFC teams are very close to that playoff, playoff hunt. And, in a stacked conference like the AFC, you just cannot lose these games. And I do think the Bengals will be fine. I just think they're going to be like playing it a little bit close for their liking, because you never know. The Bills, we'll talk about them later. They could get on a win streak. The Chargers could get on a win streak.
Okay, Jake, let's slow our roll.
The Raiders are on a win streak. Like,
No.
you never know. You never know. There's a lot of good teams out there in the AFC, and every loss just takes you that much further away from the playoff race. All right, next game. All right, sorry, I said there's going to be some sprinkled in boring games. Here's one of them. It was not that boring, but it was okay. Pittsburgh Steelers, we picked them to win. They did. They beat the Green Bay Packers 23-19. Green Bay Packers are trash. Actually, Jordan Love played better than I've seen him, especially against this defense. It wasn't like, oh my God, like it wasn't like I was watching CJ Stroud, right? It wasn't anything like crazy like that. But he threw for over 200 yards, a couple touchdowns. Oh, he almost threw for 300 yards.
Yeah, 2 picks.
Yeah, and 2 picks. It was I think it was a little step in the right direction for Jordan Love. I was actually talking to somebody about this. Maybe we're a little hard on Jordan Love. Like, I know he's been in the league for 3 or 4 years, but he's still only played. Year. Yeah, but he's still only played 4 games, 5 games. Well, up until this season, he's played 3 games before that. So, if you want to go it by games played, you could put him on that rookie sophomore tier or whatever. But yeah, no, I think it was definite step in the right direction for the Packers. But for the Steelers, man, good win. Defense, the defense is great. The running backs have been
they've been stepping
solid.
up. Yeah, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris both had a good game this week. They both had a touchdown, both rushed for over 80 yards. Jaylen Warren, 101. Najee Harris, 82 yards on the ground. Kenny Pickett didn't look good, in my opinion. I mean, only threw for 126 yards. Didn't have to, though, because the defense kept him in the game, and then they could just rely on Najee and Jaylen Warren. But overall, a lot closer than I kind of gave it credit for. I think the Packers defense definitely kept them in this game. And, like we said, Jordan Love actually played pretty decent, minus the 2 interceptions. It was better than he's looked the last 4 weeks. So it was a good competitive matchup, but overall good win for Pittsburgh. They're 6-3, and I don't think they're that good. It's crazy. They just keep winning ball games. Mike Tomlin is he's doing something. He's a good coach.
Yeah. Unlike the Jets, I think the Steelers are one of those teams where they can do just enough where they can be carried by their defense at some games. Yeah, so 6-3, man. They are in second place or tied for second place in that division. That division is going to be so fun to watch. All right, next game. We did not pick this one. This team always kind of seems to fuck us in our picks. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they beat the Tennessee Titans 20-6. And, he is a rookie, folks. He's going to have some bad games, unless you're Brock Purdy as a rookie. But, Will Levis had probably his worst game so far. He didn't throw a touchdown. No. Threw for under 200, 199, 1 yard, but still at times.
The interception.
Yeah, he didn't look that great. And honestly, it was the offensive line. He wasn't really getting a whole lot of time. And I've been saying this about the Bucs. Like, they have a decent defense. They still have that, that skeleton of the Super Bowl defense. They have a lot of players there. And I've liked the way Baker's been playing. And, he fed Mike Evans.
And it's crazy because Mike Evans still had one of the worst drops imaginable, but it didn't fuck them. For Mike Evans being one of the most elite wide receivers, that was a terrible drop. Good thing it wasn't a similar situation as it was with the Cincinnati Bengals and Tyler Boyd, because Boyd literally lost them the game. Mike Evans, at least it didn't cost them the game, but that was a bad drop. Other than that, though, Rachaad White, he looked great. They utilized him in the passing game, screenplay, rushed decently. And
dude.
the
he looks actually, or he's been playing better.
Yeah. And then, like you already said, Tampa Bay's defense it's no joke. It's not elite, in my opinion, but they can have really good games. I mean, they held Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears to 24 yards and 18 yards. That is insane. Like, Derrick Henry getting held to 24 yards. I know that he's not like the elite Derrick Henry that we're used to. He's getting up there in age, but he's still a good running back. And to hold him to 24 yards is impressive. I know Tennessee's offensive line is kind of struggling, but overall, this was a good win for Tampa. They were on, I think, a 3 or a 4 game losing streak. So it's good to end that, kind of get back on the right side of things, kind of stay a little bit competitive.
All right. Now we're getting into the good stuff. We got some bangers for you people listening or watching. This one, it was a big upset, I would say. I don't think a whole lot of people picked this team to win. We didn't. But the Cleveland Browns take down division leaders 33-31. Oh my
God. This was, if you want to talk about a tale of two halves, this is your game. I mean, especially in the first quarter, Baltimore was up 17-3. And it just looked like Deshaun Watson, I think it was the first pass of the game, was a pick six. And you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. Here's the Browns.
Hamilton, baby.
Yep, here's the Browns offense that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks with Deshaun Watson. Baltimore's defense looked great. And then the second half rolls around and Myles Garrett said no more. Myles Garrett was like, I'm going to put this team on my back. I'm going to keep us in this. And then Deshaun Watson actually came to play in the second half a little bit. I mean, the stats aren't like anything elite by any means, but he looked decent. He had a couple good passes. Jerome Ford definitely got utilized and fed, and he definitely helped them. But this Cleveland Browns defense, man, they woke up in the second half, and they definitely helped the Cleveland Browns win this game because they had a pick six also, right?
Yeah, they did. I think they had I think they had 2 scores on the defense.
I can't remember, but I think it was Newsome who had the pick six.
Yeah, Greg Newsome.
Yeah, Newsome who had the pick six. But I don't know what happened. Ravens came out firing, and then they got shut down, man. Second half was bad. That was bad.
Yeah. The Ravens, it was funny because I was watching this game and I was listening to it, and the announcer was like, Ravens look like the best team in the NFL right now. The way they've been winning, the way they're looking right now. And I was like, I agree. Like, I was about to text you and be like, I think the Ravens might be like my Super Bowl favorite for the AFC. And then the second half happened, and they didn't play necessarily bad, but it was just the defense of the Cleveland Browns turned it up to 11. They were getting tipped passes, interceptions, pick sixes, sacks. They were just stopping everything the Ravens were trying to do, and it was awesome. And like I said with the Steelers, the Browns defense is the number one defense in my opinion, and they are a team that can be carried by this Cleveland Browns defense. And as far as Deshaun Watson, I think his running game, like, it wasn't crazy numbers, but the moments where he would rush for a first down were so pivotal in this game that I think this was one of my favorite games of his as far as a Cleveland Brown. Like, I think he did a lot to win this game for his team.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see that. And man, this division gets even closer. The Ravens are still in first, but only barely. They still haven't played their bye, but yeah, man, this Browns defense is legit, and we both agree that Myles Garrett is our favorite for.
Dude, there was that one drive. Myles Garrett literally had back-to-back sacks. Just
that's insane,
unstoppable. Like, Myles Garrett is a one-man wrecking crew, and This man, if he's not on PEs, this man, I want his blood sample and I just want to inject it into myself because he is on a completely different level. I mean, just a physical specimen, man. Jesus Christ, he is something. Yeah, if he doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year, I'd be surprised. I mean, he should win it barring any injury. Hopefully he stays healthy because Cleveland Browns are going to need him because he is playing out of his freaking mind this year.
I agree. But a great win for the Browns, man. Really
great comeback.
Really showed them. I think that was a great game for them to show them that this is a playoff team. Yep. And you know what? We kind of went back and forth with the Browns. We thought they could be either really good or, bad. But I think we had them going 10-7 if I remember correctly. I'd have to look, but yeah, man,
something like that.
Browns are looking dangerous.
Yes.
All right. This next game was awesome. If you love Cinderella stories, you'll love this game. We picked them to win. They did. Minnesota Vikings, the 6-4 Minnesota Vikings beat the Saints 27-19.
Granted, they started off 0-3.
Yeah.
Now they're 6-4. And Justin Jefferson's about to come back.
Yeah. This team, it's kind of crazy because, I mean, technically the 49ers are the third seed in the NFC. But if it comes down to it, like the Vikings have the tiebreaker. You know, if like they have I just find that insane. And they haven't even played the Lions yet. When they play the Lions, it's going to be fireworks. I 100% guarantee. And I guarantee you Minnesota wins one of those games. I don't think.
I have a feeling they split as well. At the beginning of the season, I think I had the Lions 2-0ing them, but seeing how Minnesota's responded, I want to root for this team, man, because they're the Chargers of the NFC, but recently they've been playing well. And like you said, the Cinderella story with Josh Dobbs is just, it's phenomenal, man. Like, I am so happy for the guy because being on 3 separate teams at the start of the year is just absolutely insane. And then everywhere he's gone, he's looked good. And it's a lot different than his time in Tennessee last year. He actually looks competent. His pocket awareness is good. He utilizes his legs. He's like one of the top rushing quarterbacks this year in the NFL. Like, I think he's on pace for 700 yards rushing, which is absolutely insane. Came in, learned the playbook in a week, and is already making plays, hyper targeting TJ Hawkinson, which is great. Alexander Mattison does get injured this game, I believe. So that's going to be a little bit of something to monitor. Ty Chandler comes in, looks pretty decent. Jordan Addison doing his thing. Brandon Powell gets utilized a little bit. But with Justin Jefferson coming back, I think having Josh Dobbs, that's probably going to be his favorite target, him and TJ Hawkinson. And the Vikings defense, they've really turned a corner this year. They were one of the worst defenses last year statistically and to the eye test, and then they started the year piss poor, and then they just turned it up. Like, they turned it up to 11, and I'm happy for the Vikings. On the other side of the ball, the Saints, Derek Carr gets injured, Jameis Winston comes in and just decides to start slinging the rock, but throws 2 interceptions. What's new with Jameis? But at least he gave Chris Olave the targets that Derek Carr never decided to do. But the Saints kind of not a good performance by any means. Alvin Kamara got shut down. Jamal Williams didn't do anything. Taysom Hill couldn't get anything going. Chris Olave, this was his best game. And A.T. Perry had a touchdown, so good for him, the rookie. I think he's out of Wake Forest, if I'm not mistaken. But, Minnesota, man, good for them. Good win.
Yeah, no, I loved everything they're doing it. And, I said it, I think the Vikings can really contend for this division. The Lions look great, but the Vikings, they have a lot of firepower, and their defense is actually playing good. So, great win for the Vikings. And they are on a, 5-game win streak now. So,
man,
I hope they keep it up. Yep, definitely hot. And now this next game was a really fun one. Fun for a couple of reasons. We picked them. They won. Arizona Cardinals got their second win of the season. Beat the Falcons 25-23. And welcome back, Kyler Murray. It's it was fun to watch,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, it looks honestly like he didn't even get hurt. Uh,
Yeah.
he was scrambling.
I was surprised really quick. I was just surprised with how well he could run the ball. Like I did not think that he was going to be able to escape the pocket the way that he was, utilize his legs, his scramble ability looks just the same. Like it doesn't look like he missed a step.
Yeah. Um, and wild, man. He looked great. I had a couple, it was like rust. It's shaking off the rust, but overall, I would give him like a high B performance, maybe low A. Like he looked great. I think he rushed for a touchdown, didn't he?
He did. He didn't.
Yeah,
He
man.
didn't throw any touchdowns. Rushed for the touchdown. Hyper fixated on Trey McBride. Trey McBride, if you have him in fantasy, good
Jesus.
for you. And James Conner, welcome back. Oh, there you go. But yeah, James Conner, welcome back as well. And these two players, they definitely made this offense look different. So good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great win for the Cardinals, man. Like I said, I don't think it was in their culture to really tank. I think what's his name? Gannon?
Jonathan Gannon, yeah.
Yeah, I think Gannon really wants to bring in that winning culture, and I think
respect it.
I respect the shit out of it. And by playing Kyler Murray, you're trying to win games, and they're definitely going to win a lot more games with Kyler Murray. I'll say that. Yeah, man, they just look like 10 times better. As far as for the Falcons,
Jesus Christ. Quarterback play definitely F them in the A. I mean, Heineke goes down, probably has a concussion, whatever it is. Desmond Ritter comes in late in the game, didn't really do anything. I will say Bijan actually had a good game. Arthur Smith actually gave him the rock in the red zone, which was kind of interesting. But other than that, man, this offense didn't really do much. I mean, all the receivers got held to under 40 yards. Drake London had the most with 36. It was literally the Bijan show. And then Atlanta's defense still played tough. I think the Atlanta defense did really well. But yeah, good one for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep, I'm glad we predicted that one. That one's a little bit more special. All right, this next game, not gonna like talking about it, but it was a great game. If you like offensive output, zero defensive output. The Detroit Lions beat the Los Angeles Chargers 41-38. We both picked the Lions. I thought for sure the Chargers would win since I went against them, but they broke the streak. And I'm going to say my piece, and then I'll let you go on your little Chargers rant.
Do your thing.
As far as the defense not being able to stop the Lions for shit, I thought the Chargers played pretty good. I thought Justin Herbert played exceptionally well. I really don't have any complaints about the offensive side of the ball. They just, I don't know. I really don't have complaints on the offensive side of the ball. They look great.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to have complaints when you put up 38 points and still lose.
Yeah. And you'll probably talk about it more than I will, but the defense was the killer here. They couldn't stop them. I think they may have stopped them once. It was just, it was bad, man. And it sucks for Herbert because, he's putting up these numbers, but like, if your defense can't stop anybody, like, there's only so much you can do, I think. And like, if someone, has better clock management than you, they're going to end up with the ball at the end, like the Lions did. But, overall, it wasn't a terrible game for the Chargers. I just think the defense sucks, but you take it away, Dan.
So my biggest takeaway is they straight up just got outcoached. Ben Johnson, masterclass performance for Detroit's offense. I mean, kudos to him. Khalil Mack came out and said everything that we expected them to do, they did the opposite. So the Chargers were not prepared. Coaching did not do their homework. Defense got absolutely obliterated. You allow David Montgomery to rush for a 75-yard touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had like 120 some yards in the first half and 2 touchdowns. Defense it's bad, man. And I really think that Brandon Staley he has the ability to come up with a good game plan. We saw it last year against Miami. The Chargers looked good against San Francisco last year in the first half with a demolished defense. So it's like he has the ability. It's just too inconsistent. And one of the biggest things that I've been preaching for a lot of the teams that look good one week and then look piss poor the other week is there's no continuity between the offense and defense. It's not congruent. Like they're not working in tandem with one another. So, and that's the thing with the Chargers. They've never been in sync. There's never been a game this year where the Chargers look good on offense and defense at the same time, unless they're playing the New York Jets. But even then, the offense didn't look good. So I will say Justin Herbert, this was probably his best game of the year. 4 touchdowns. He did have the one bad interception. I know he tried to throw the ball away kind of on the run. Just the defensive back made a great play, but you lose 2 of your top 3 wide receivers. You know, Mike Williams is out for the year. Josh Palmer's on IR. And then Keenan Allen even goes out for a quarter. And then you're still throwing dimes to Jalen Guyton. You're getting it going with Austin Eckler. Quentin Johnson even gets going. But Keenan Allen, when he was in there, was phenomenal. And this looked like the typical Justin Herbert game that we're used to. Like Justin Herbert, this was like a masterclass. Like he was accurate this time. He was throwing balls on a rope. Like the pinpoint accuracy was back. It didn't look like the finger was bothering him or whatever the hell's been going on this year. Like he looked great and he utilized his legs for a couple big first downs. I will say maybe this game would have gone a little bit differently, even though the defense sucked, if Quentin Johnson would have made a couple more catches. I mean, I don't want to say he's an actual bust. Like we joke about it. He's a rookie. He's going to go through his lumps. I mean, we saw it with Terrell Owens, who's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Like there was that one game when he played for San Francisco. He could not catch anything to save his life and then has the game-winning touchdown catch. And I mean, he had like 6 drops that game. That was just atrocious.
You mean the catch 2?
What?
That game's called The Catch 2.
Oh, got you. Dude, sorry. I was not. No, you're good. I was not following for a second. I was like, what? All right. But yes, The Catch 2. I did not know that that's what the game was called. But, you know, I'm not even trying to compare him to Terrell Owens. I'm just saying that he can be better than we're giving him credit for right now. But he's got to learn to catch the ball. He's got to catch the fucking ball. And that's the way that he's going to get more receptions and more targets is if Justin Herbert can trust him. But right now, I wouldn't trust him because he's dropping probably 50% of the passes you throw to him. So
this is how he's catching the ball.
Yeah, he's got nubs for hands. But this rushing attack, I don't know. Other than the Miami game, they can't rush the ball. At this point, I'm starting to think that it's kind of an offensive line issue. I think that they're just better in pass sets because this is 2 different offensive schemes, and Kellen Moore is supposed to come up with good running attack like game plans, and it just hasn't panned out. So they can't bleed the clock a little bit. So it's tough, man. I sent you a stat earlier with Justin Herbert. He's literally scored, I think, 1,502 points since coming into the league, and the defense has given up 1,502 points. So it's like, even though he's putting up all these great numbers and stats, the defense is not helping him out. They can't let him shine. And unfortunately, when it comes to like, talk shows and everything, they're going to come at Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert let the team down. It's like, motherfucker, he threw for 323, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. It's not on him. It's on the defense and it's on coaching. So that's my ramble. Chargers need to figure their shit out. I think the coaches need to go.
Yeah, I think if you're like a casual, it's easy to blame Justin Herbert. And I'll agree. Like he hasn't had his best year, but this game was not on him at all. And it comes to the point where it's not just Justin Herbert. There is 21 other players on the field at a time that need to step up. And it's the Chargers are baffling to me because they have so much talent everywhere, especially on that defense. And it just, they can't stop a lick, man. And it's just I'm
points to
curious.
coaching, in my opinion, like 100%.
Yeah.
If you have that much talent and you can't stop anything, it's got to be a schematical error. Something's not being taught correctly. There's a disconnect between the players and the coaching and what they're supposed to do. So,
do you think that maybe the Chargers offense isn't really, I'm going to bring it back to what you always say, not playing complementary ball to the defense? Do you think if the Chargers played more of a slow paced, grinded out, short chunk plays and just really, really, really give that defense some rest because apparently they need it? Do you think that would help out?
I think in certain matchups, sure. Because I mean, if like say for example, if they were able to sustain drives against the Jets, I think the offense would have played more complementary football. But the defense, even though the offense was getting shut out 3 and out left and right, the defense still ended up playing phenomenal. Like sometimes they just get out coached, and sometimes they're just better overall than the offense. They're good against bad offenses, which they should be. But when it comes to playing an above average team, they just haven't been able to do it. They're kind of like the Miami Dolphins in the sense that like they haven't beaten anyone worth note.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take anything away from the Lions. The Lions are legit. They have the second best record in the NFC. They are an offensive firepower team. Defense, they weren't able to stop anybody. They made a couple good plays, but for the most part, they were not able to stop Justin Herbert. But man, good for the Lions. They are legit. But yeah, Chargers. Got to step it up. All right, next game. That was a fun game to watch. This next game was not. We picked them. They absolutely did win. The Dallas Cowboys cream pied the New York Giants 49-17. And honestly, I'm not going to take too much away from this.
Moving on.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is the run game for the Cowboys sucks. Yeah. I don't get how you can score 49 points, and this is more of like a fantasy gripe, but Tony Pollard rushed for 55 yards, I believe.
On 15 attempts.
And 0 touchdowns. You scored 49 points. I mean, whatever, dude. Dak is lighting the world on fire the last couple of weeks, but let's not get carried away. I think we got carried away a little bit the first time the Cowboys beat the Giants. And the Cowboys did the exact same thing to the Giants, week 3 or whatever it was, or week 2. Let's pump the brakes. It's the Giants. They're really bad. Is it Tommy DeVito? Yeah, Tommy DeVito is. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know how he made it to the league. I don't know how him and like Brett Ripien made it to the league. Like. I would rather roll with Carson Wentz, someone who we know is not that great, than those dudes. Like,
bro, I'd rather bring out Matt Ryan from retirement and deal with freaking Danny DeVito's cousin or whatever the fuck he is, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, honestly, the only good thing about this game was he did have a touchdown, but and his rushing ability is good. He's a good little rusher. I don't think that's going to translate to very many wins. But, the Cowboys, what do you know? They destroyed a very bad team. We can move on.
At this point, I think the Giants are the worst team.
Yeah.
I don't even give a damn if they have one more win than the Panthers. At least the Panthers look more competitive. I mean, Jesus Christ.
The only thing, the Giants, their defense was playing pretty solid before this week. That's the only thing I can say. They still have a lot of young players to build that team around. They got some good linemen. They got some good defensive linemen. They got some good defensive players. They have young wide receivers. But yeah, if I'm Saquon, I'm getting the fuck out of there, honestly. You have a shot to go somewhere where you want to go.
Yeah, come to the Chargers.
Yeah. Go to somewhere where you can actually win a playoff game. I mean, I
Okay,
guess they
don't come to the Chargers.
All right, next game. This one was very exciting.
Yeah.
It was very back and forth. We picked them. They won. Seattle Seahawks beat the Commanders barely, literally barely, with time expiring. Beat the Commanders 29-26. And
Sam Howell's pretty freaking good.
yeah. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, Sam Howell outplayed. Even though Geno Smith has more yards, I think Sam Howell outplayed Geno for the majority of this game. I know Geno got the last drive to get the field goal or whatever, but Sam Howell looks good, dude. I think
they found a quarterback you can build around. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like Sam Howell, he may not have been like the first overall quarterback in his year's draft, but I think if you would have put him in another year's class, he probably would have been the first quarterback taken. I mean, what he's doing is he's putting up numbers and he looks good doing it. Like he's accurate. He's making big time throws. He does have a pretty decent receiving core. I will say that. So he does have like weapons that he can throw to. I mean, even Brian Robinson was the leading receiver this game. So it kind of shows that he was jumping it off a little bit, but you got a good tight end in Logan Thomas. Terry McLaurin is criminally underrated as a wide receiver. De'Ami Brown is pretty decent. Curtis Samuel, when he's healthy, he can be a little shifty, gadgety player. But and Sam Howell, he can also use his legs. Yeah, go ahead.
Now you see him. Now you don't. Jahan Dotson disappears once again. 0 for 0. But,
2 targets.
Sorry, Dan.
No, you're good.
Continue.
But it's like, even then, you also have Jahan Dotson, and when he's utilized, he's a good wide receiver too. Like the Washington offense has weapons. Like they have weapons. Like you said, Geno Smith, I do agree. I think that he got outplayed a little bit by Sam Howell, but this was a good performance by Geno. Geno had a bounce back week. He had been kind of in a lull, kind of like looking at how he was last year. And then this was a good step in the right direction. I don't think Washington's defense is necessarily good because, I mean, quarterbacks have been kind of lighting them up every week, but it was good to see Geno actually be able to be competent again. And Kenneth Walker, even though he wasn't doing much on the ground, he had a monster day in the receiving game as well. Not a monster game, but good 64 through the air, and he also had 63 on the ground, so that was good. Zach Charbonnet also getting utilized, actually out snapping Kenneth Walker, which is what I think is interesting. And Zach Charbonnet, hit stick monster. I mean, there was one play, it was only for 2 or 3 yards, didn't even get out of bounds, but he straight up trucked the cornerback. He's just fun to watch. I love watching him out of UCLA. I love watching him on Seattle. I hope he gets more touches. I hope that they keep utilizing him. And Pete Carroll has kind of spoken highly of Zach Charbonnet, but it was a good win. It was a competitive match, and it was a good drive to end on. They only had like a minute or less with no timeouts, and they were able to do it. DK Metcalf actually got utilized at the end, didn't really do anything else other than that. But yeah, good win for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep. All right, next game, Sunday night. Very boring to begin with, but we picked them. Actually we did not pick them. The Las Vegas Raiders, they are 5-5. They beat the New York Jets 16-12, and holy shit, the first half was so boring I fell asleep. That's 2 Sunday night games where I've fallen asleep from being so boring. But the ending of this game was pretty exciting. As a 49er fan, I'm supposed to hate the Raiders or not like them or whatever. Still don't like them. I know you don't like them, division rival and all, but it's kind of fun.
No, I hate them.
I kind of am rooting for them a little bit just because they got rid of Mike McDaniel. I've never liked Mike McDaniel.
From the locker room.
Yeah, and they're on a 2-game winning streak.
With an interim head coach and an offensive coordinator who didn't even know he was going to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I'm happy for the Raiders. I would have been happy for either of these teams if they won. Honestly,
I want to say this really quick. I'm not putting the loss on Zach Wilson this game. I think Zach Wilson actually played a pretty decent game. The offense shot themselves in the foot. False starts, holding penalties, drop passes. Tyler Conklin preventing a Hail Mary success to Garrett Wilson, just swatting the ball away. If you haven't seen the replay, Garrett Wilson may have ended up with that pass. I'm not going to say he would have, but he had a much higher chance. But Tyler Conklin steps in front of him, swats the ball away, just completely ruins the chance of a Hail Mary success story. But Zach Wilson actually was distributing the ball pretty well. Still didn't throw a touchdown pass, but they kind of needed to because they couldn't do much on the ground. Breece Hall only 28 yards rushing. Dalvin Cook 26 yards rushing. Zach Wilson actually had 54 yards rushing. He was the leading rusher this game, and the defense still balled out, but they were on the field so much, and then it came down to just the ground and pound, and the Raiders started getting it going in the second half. Josh Jacobs actually had a pretty good game, 116 yards against a tough defensive front in the New York Jets. Aiden O'Connell did enough to win this game, only 153, 1-1, but I think the Jets shot themselves in the foot. They had several opportunities to score touchdowns. They couldn't come away with it because of penalties. So tough loss for the Jets, good win for the Raiders.
Yeah, I really think the Jets needed this one. Supposedly, Aaron Rodgers is thinking about coming back mid-December or whatever. They have to have wins against teams like this. And like, what's the point if they're 4-10? Like, he's not going to come back for that shit. Why would you? Just heal up, man. Rest up for next season. Yeah, I feel bad for that defense. That defense is, if they had some sort of offense that could get points, that defense would be the number one defense. No doubt in my mind. Like, I love the Browns defense, but that defense is legit.
And it's cool that Quincy and Quinnen Williams are just both balling out. Brothers on the same defense, just balling out together. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. But, I kind of am going to put a little bit of blame on Zach Wilson. He did have a lot more yards.
Shot themselves in the foot on that drive because they were driving. So that was his fault, like 100%. That looked like the typical Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
But I still stand by my statement. Yes, he is part of it. But usually you're used to saying Zach Wilson's the reason. Like against the Chargers, he was the reason they lost. Defense did their part. Zach Wilson did not. Was not aware of, had no pocket awareness whatsoever. This game, he was distributing the ball, scrambled, used his legs, had the one costly interception when they were driving. But you had two offensive drives that were stalled by penalties. Actually, three that were holding penalties, false starts, whatever it was, that were just momentum killers. And it was like back-to-back penalties. So he is part of it, but he is not the main reason, in my opinion.
No, 100%. I was just saying that drive where he threw that interception where he could have drove down and got the touch. Like it, and that's what sucks about being a quarterback. When you do something like that, it's like, oh, you lost us the game. No. I mean, the offensive line and the offense just look like shit. But I think statistically, this is probably one of Zach Wilson's best games, even though he didn't throw in for a touchdown.
Yeah,
but
almost
good win
300 yards.
Yeah, good win for the Raiders.
2-game winning streak. Haven't lost since they have a new head coach.
And they're tied for third place or second place. I think they're tied for second place in your division. All right, let's get on to
the Broncos. Broncos are 4-5. They're the same record as the Chargers.
Oh, so they are second place.
They are second place in the AFC West, correct.
All right, let's get to the debacle that was Monday night that we just watched. We did not pick them, and God damn it, they deserve to lose.
Oh, my God.
No. Sorry. The Bills deserve to lose. The Denver Broncos beat the Bills 24-22, and literally, from the first drive of the game, we should have knew how this game was going to go. It was a shit show for the Bills. Let's see. Josh Allen, 2 interceptions, fumble. James Cook, fumble. Yeah. So James Cook fumbled, Josh Allen fumbled, and so 4 total turnovers for the Buffalo Bills.
And then
And they,
not even to mention the last play of the game. That
yeah,
is okay,
that's the most
guys.
egregious.
We alluded to this, but if you want to talk about like heartbreaks, the Buffalo Bills did it back in the day, losing 4 Super Bowls in a row, and this doesn't come close to that because that's devastating. Losing 4 in a row, that's devastating. But to finally score a touchdown, leave only like a minute 30, 2 minutes on the clock, you know, win because Will Lutz misses a kick only to have 12 players on the field. I don't know what happened. This was like the curse of Buffalo was back almost because nothing went right this game. Turnovers, like you mentioned. But the fact that you have 12 men on the field for the last play of the game, that is inexcusable. That is poorly coached. That is just dumb playing. Like you played dumb to end the game. You gave that game away.
The craziest thing is they almost won this game, but the Broncos have looked good these last couple games. I mean, they beat the Chiefs, and they look good against the Chiefs. And I think they won before that. So what? They're on a 3-game win streak. The Russell Wilson has looked the best I've seen him as a Denver Bronco. The run game is good. The defense
is stepping up.
Yeah.
Ever since they got like 70 points scored on them, they have turned the page. They were like, never again. And the defense is looking like the defense that we've seen. Like they're making turnovers, they're making plays, they're getting stops. Defense looks good.
I feel like it was a matter of time. I mean, it was virtually the same defense as last year, who was a top 5 defense. And they were playing like the number 32 defense so far this year. But they, like you said, definitely have stepped up. That Courtland Sutton touchdown was
chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, baby. What else, man?
Javonte Williams did enough this game. I mean, Jerry Jeudy had a couple plays. You already mentioned Courtland Sutton. But I think this, like you said, Russell Wilson, even though his stats aren't like padded with like huge numbers, he looked good. Like he wasn't making dumb plays that we're used to seeing from last year, where it's just costly interception, bad duck throws. Like and he was putting on the money.
Yeah, and I think the biggest the difference from this year and last year is he's scrambling, he's sliding, and he's not scrambling to throw a fucking Hail Mary 40 yards down the field. He's, throwing the ball away or scrambling to get the first down. Like he's doing enough like to win games, and they are. Honestly, there's more negatives in this game. The Broncos did win this game, but they're still not, in my opinion, a great team, and they still let Buffalo, stay in the game, and they almost lost.
Yeah.
They probably should have lost.
But, I mean, if you miss 2 PATs, that's also bad. I mean, the placeholder really botched the second one. I mean, it just kind of seemed like it was hard to hold on to the ball this game for a lot of people. It seems like, I don't know if it was the weather. It is getting colder in Buffalo. I mean, we're in mid-November now, so that could be kind of playing a factor. But still, it was to have 4 total turnovers and only win by a last-second field goal because the defense had 12 men on the field. It's not a pretty look, but a win's a win. And I think the defense, Denver did enough to win. And I think shot themselves in the foot. Yeah, I think Buffalo shot themselves in the foot big time. I mean, this Buffalo team has not looked good this year, in my opinion. No. I know that they have 5 wins, but it hasn't been pretty. Like this team, compared to the last 3 years, has looked night and day. Like the last 3 years, like they look like they could contend for a Super Bowl. This year, it looks like they're fighting for their lives to make a wild card spot with the way that they're playing.
Which they are. I mean, they're not in first place in their division. They're 5-5, And, you got teams like the Texans, the Raiders, possibly the Chargers, if they could step up at all.
I'm not putting my money on it.
And then you got a division where you got the Steelers, excuse me, the Steelers, Ravens, and Browns, who could all make the playoffs. Yeah, man, the Bills don't look great. It's funny, like the Bills and the Bengals didn't look great this weekend, and their records show for it. I think it's more alarming for the Bills, and Josh Allen continues this streak of a turnover in every game this season.
Longest streak since I think the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes to a point where you're like, how much can you put up with? Like, I know he can make amazing plays with his legs, with his arm, but when you're doing multiple turnovers, like, I don't know, man. And it did cost them the game this time, pretty much. Like, they should have been able to put a lot. I will say this though, that first interception wasn't that bad. Maybe he threw it a little hard. It was a tip.
It was a tip pass. Yeah, it's a tough break. I mean, it happens to every quarterback. Every quarterback's going to have a wide receiver where it hits them in the hands, kind of gets kicked up into the air, and then it's picked off. But the second one was definitely not a good one.
Yeah, I'm almost at that red alert mode where I was for the Bengals before they went on their win streak. I think if I don't know who the Bills are playing next week, but if they lose, look out, because there might be some changes coming. But ladies and gents, that was week 10. Dane, close us out.
Follow us here. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. Anything you can and do to help the podcast grow, we'd greatly appreciate.
Thanks for listening, and as always, peace.